Hello everyone, it's Lindsay, and today I'm going to be doing a 6x8 scrapbooking layout, and I'll be scrapbooking this photo of our new rescue puppy, Clementine, that my husband brought home to our family last week. And I'm going to be using some new products from Spellbinders and Fun Stampers Journey. So a few weeks ago, Spellbinders reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in checking out their new stamp club. So this is with Fun Stampers Journey, and basically you subscribe, and each month there is a new stamp set that they will send you, and there are coordinating dies that you can also add in to go along with it. So they did send those to me. This is the stamp set for February. It's Orange Blossoms, and basically these are a cling red rubber stamp, so a little bit different than what I normally show here on my channel. I use a lot of clear stamps just because that's mostly what the companies are producing with the products that I use. I'm not opposed to red rubber cling. There just doesn't seem to be as many of these, and some of you are going to be asking what the difference is. And so with red rubber, you actually can get a better, more detailed impression. You can do some more mixed media techniques and have better results. Of course, the downside is that they're not clear, so you can't like see through them when you're stamping, but I'm going to be showing you how I'm going to make like custom die cuts with these, and so they're great for that. Now, this particular set, of course, would be awesome for card making, so you've got some great sentiments here, thinking of you, sending you sunshine, hello there. I'm going to be using it to scrapbook with today. There's this big bold orange piece here. You've got this fun one that you could go in and stamp with a colored ink, either directly in or kind of slightly offset, and create your own pattern. And then you've got some florals down here. Now they did go ahead and also send me the coordinating die set, which is awesome. So you can pick that up to go along with it. And I will be using this today. Now, little did I know that when they reached out to me, we would be bringing home a little girl that was found in an orange orchard, and so we named her Clementine. And so that happened after all of this. I thought, oh, how perfect to scrapbook about her and use these. But of course you could do card making and things like that. I did have a peek into some of the new scrapbooking lines that are coming out this year, and so many of them have citrus themed products in them, pattern papers and die cuts and things like that. So I thought this would be perfect for some of those lines that are coming out. I live in Central California. We are completely surrounded with orange orchards everywhere, and so this really will get a lot of use in my stash. So definitely go check these out. I will have an affiliate link down below for you guys. They did send these to me to play with, but you know, you're always going to get my honest opinion, and I'm always excited to try out new products. I've loved Spellbinders products in the past, so I'm excited to play with these. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of a variety of some like mixed media things, doing some watercolor painting. So let me go ahead and put you on fast forward, and we will get this layout put together. All right, so let's dive right in. We're going to start with the stamping. So I have a piece of Canson watercolor paper here, and I'm going to be stamping on that since I'll be doing some watercoloring. So with these stamps, just like clear stamps, you can just stick them onto an acrylic block, and I'm going to ink these up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is waterproof once it's heat set, and just gives you a really intense deep black, and is good for fine lines like on this stamp here. And I did flip my watercolor paper over to the smooth side. That way it's a little bit easier to stamp on. And you can see you don't have to press very hard. You get really nice impressions. The great thing about rubber stamps is if you have a tendency to press too hard on your stamps, it gives you this blurred out fuzzy line. And with red rubber stamps, it's less likely for that to happen because they're just a more firm stamp. So you can press hard and don't have to worry about like mushing the image of your stamp. So I went ahead and stamped out several of the images from this stamp set and heat set those, and now I'm going to go in with some really inexpensive watercolors. I got these on Amazon. I will link everything down below for you guys, as well as over on my blog, so check that out. I'm just adding some plain water to the area I'm going to paint, and then just dropping in color. And you can see these watercolors are so intensely pigmented. It hardly takes any paint at all to get these colored in. And one nice thing about watercolor is it can be messy, it can be imperfect, and that is why I love it, and that's the look that I go for when I'm painting with them, is, you know, totally messy. If it is not fully colored in, it's okay. If colors bleed together, it's okay. I want it just to look very loose and artistic. So you can see my water is kind of dirty. My brush was kind of dirty, so I'm fighting with that. But just putting water down into the area and then just dropping color in. And then I can go in and add a little bit of shading by adding some darker color where that shading detail is in the stamp. You can see in the bottom of the orange there's some dot detail, and so I'm just adding some darker orange wherever that detail is. But these look very intricate, but they're actually super simple to stamp in and or to color in. And like I said, you could use that solid round piece in the stamp set as well and like just stamp orange down in there. It'd be really fun, kind of artistic graphic style if you wanted to do that instead, or color these with colored pencils or markers. The nice thing about working on watercolor paper or cardstock separate from your project is you can really use whatever medium you want and kind of explore and play, and don't be afraid that you're going to mess up your project because you're working on a separate piece of paper like this. Same thing if you're wanting to take these into your Bible journaling, which is something I plan on doing as well. Creating your own custom die cuts like this, you could just do a whole bunch of them in one sitting, cut them all out, and then just have them sitting there to pull out and use as your Bible journaling or doing scrapbooking or, you know, whatever project you're working on. So orange blossoms are white with a kind of yellow and green center, so that is how I'm painting these. You'll see that white flowers aren't totally stark paper white, so I am adding a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow pulled out into the leaves of the flowers or the petals of the flowers, and that just kind of gives it a semi more realistic look. We're not going for super realistic with this. And a little unknown fact about me, orange blossom scent is my absolute favorite scent in the world. Every perfume that I love has orange blossoms in it. I hunt down perfume that has orange blossom scent, but I'm also terribly allergic to orange blossoms. So in the Central Valley here, during the time that they're blooming, I almost have to drive through them almost every single day. They are completely surrounding where we live at. And so I roll down the window and smell it, take it in, and inevitably just sneeze the whole way home. But they are just beautiful. One of my favorite things about living here. So I for sure am going to get a lot of use out of this stamp set. I can see you creating some really beautiful cards. If you check out the Spellbinders website for the Stamp Club, there's all kinds of examples for the stamp set as well, so definitely check that out. And just search on YouTube and you'll be able to find other creators using this stamp set, I'm sure, and kind of get some different ideas for how to use it. Everybody's going to have a little bit different of a style than what I do, so it's kind of fun to see different ways you can use it. So I went ahead and colored in those leaves, added some brown detail, and then dried those. I cut them all apart, and now I'm going to run these through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And these dies, again, are an add-on that you can add on to the monthly subscription service. And they do leave a little bit of a white border. If you don't like that, you can easily just fussy cut these images out. They're pretty simple. But you can see even with that super thick watercolor paper, these dies cut beautifully. So I went ahead and ran all those through my die cutting machine, set those aside, and now we can start working on the actual layout. So here I have a 6x8 piece of 110-pound white cardstock, just smooth cardstock, and I'm going to be doing some mixed media techniques. So I'm taking some Daniel Smith watercolor ground. You could also use gesso. I just like how watercolor ground reacts with wet mediums a little bit better, and so I'm just taking a paint card and swiping a very thin layer of this watercolor ground onto the paper. I'll dry that, and then I also add a second layer of that, and that's just going to protect the cardstock. So now when I go in with paints and inks and things like that, it's not going to destroy the paper. So once that's good and dry, I'm going to go in with some texture paste through a stencil. And so this is just some Ranger texture paste. Again, everything will be linked down below, and a Tim Holtz stencil that has this really fun kind of grungy dot detail. And I liked that the dots kind of mimic, you know, the circular shapes that we're getting from the oranges. And this is just plain white embossing paste, or not embossing paste, texture paste, that I'm just applying a thin layer and kind of a diagonal across the page. And this is going to be behind my photo. You do want to make sure that you take all of your tools and immediately wash them when you use texture paste. So my stencil, my palette knife, all of that immediately gets cleaned, because this stuff will dry like rock hard cement. It will ruin your stencils, ruin your palette knives. So you just want to be careful about getting that all cleaned up. So a lot of this will be covered by the photo, but I just wanted some fun texture, and I'm dried that really, really well with my heat tool. And now I'm going to go in with some inks. So I have some Tumbled Glass and Squeeze Lemonade Distress Oxide inks, and I'm ink smushing. This is one of my favorite techniques for these inks. I'm just smushing a little bit of it on to some clear like plastic packaging, just trash, wetting the ink and also wetting my page, and then just smushing the ink down on the page, kind of keeping it in that same diagonal from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. And you'll see how this embossing, or not embossing, I want to call it embossing. It's not, it's texture paste. The texture paste kind of grabs a hold of that ink in different ways. And so it kind of brings out that pattern that we have from that stencil. So I'm kind of laying things out to see how intense I want this blue in the background and just how much of it I want. So I'm kind of testing things out here and decide I do need to add a second layer of that just to intensify it a little bit. And this is messy and imperfect, and you just got to kind of go with it and just embrace however it gets put down on there. The nice thing about having prepared the cardstock with the watercolor ground is it's a little bit more forgiving for moving the pigment around. The paper isn't able to just grab a hold of it as much as it would if it wasn't prepped. So I dried that blue, and now I'm going in with a Squeeze Lemonade. And right now you're probably like, oh, Lindsey, that's a hot mess. Don't worry. This will actually dry way back, and it'll just be a little bit of yellow. There was quite a bit of yellow in the photo and in the florals, and so I wanted to pull that into the background a little bit. And it does mix with that blue to be more of, you know, a green yellow, which is fine because that's what's in the photo. So you can see that's just very, very little bit of that in the background. Made sure that everything was really nice and dry, and then now we can start assembling. So I'm going to pop my photo up on some foam squares. These are just some inexpensive ones I think I got from like the Dollar Tree or something, nothing fancy. And this just helps with that not embossing, with the texture paste. When you're adhering a photo down over it, you do want to give it some lift or some layers behind it, or it kind of sits funny on that texture. So pop it up on some foam squares, and then now I just want to see how that's going to fit with that big piece. I'm going to add some foam squares to the outer edge of these of this die cut piece, and then just regular adhesive where it touches the photo. That way it kind of hangs off the edge there, and everything will be level. And then I'll tuck some of these smaller pieces down underneath the photo as well. So I obviously painted and cut out way more than I needed. I'd rather have too many than not enough, and I can always set them aside on my desk or in a drawer, and one of the acrylic drawers that I store die cuts in, and just have them on hand to grab for other projects. So don't feel like you have to, you know, toss those or can't use them. I like to sit and just play with coloring and cutting out images just when I'm having some downtime, and then I have those to quickly put together a project if I need to. And just continue to stick down some of those pieces around the photo. I did use a liquid adhesive, that way it adheres really well to the texture paste. Now for my title, I'm going to pull out this Hello There sentiment, and I'm going to stamp it with some archival ink, and I'm stamping it on some vellum. And I tried this with some embossing. It didn't really work, so I'm just sticking to just plain black archival ink. Make sure that's nice and heat set, and then I will cut that out. And you can see this is going to kind of layer over the photo, and by adding the vellum, it just kind of helps that sentiment stand out from the photo a little bit. I'm just going to hand trim it out. There is not matching dies for the sentiments in the stamp set. It's just for the images that are in the stamp set. And then I really wanted to pop this up on like foam adhesive, give it some dimension, but it was going to be too fussy to put foam just where the letters are so that you couldn't see it through the vellum. So in the end, I decided to just run it through my Xyron sticker maker, and this just adheres adhesive to the entire back side of the vellum, so then that way you can't see the adhesive. Vellum can be a little tricky with adhesives because you can see through it. So doing this makes it just one giant sticker, and then I can just peel that off and stick it directly to the photo there, and that actually worked out pretty well. And then the vellum just kind of melts into the photo, but just gives it a frosty look so that hello there kind of pops out a little bit more. And then off to the side here, I have some dimensional alpha stickers from Felicity Jane. And so my title here is going to say, hello there, Clementine. So I'm going to just stick those down. And I didn't have any problem getting these to stick over the top of the texture paste. Just made sure I, pushed down nice and firm and got them to stick on there. So I felt like this is a little bit heavy in that top left-hand corner, so I'm going to pull in a label in the bottom right-hand corner, and this will be where I add my date. And I'll also bring in one of those little die-cut pieces that I had painted, and this just kind of, pulls your eye down into that bottom corner and also gives you a place to have the date on there. So again, stamp that with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink and dried it. That is a pigment ink, so it takes a little bit longer to dry, so you want to make sure that you heat set it so you don't smear things. And I'll just have these pieces hanging off the edge, and I'll just trim off any excess that's hanging off the edge there. And that's just a way that I like to stick labels on there. And that just really kind of pulls all of that together and brings some more black down in. And what is a layout without some black watercolor splashes? It's not one of mine. I always add this as a finishing detail. So I covered my photo, adding a little bit of black watercolor. This really just pulls everything together and just adds to that mixed media feel. And that is it for the layout today. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Check out the description box for links to everything that I mentioned. Go check out the Stamp Club from Spellbinders. It's super amazing if you're wanting to build up your stamp stash. And so yeah, go check that out. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.